We're back again.
Guess who's back? Celebrate.
That was so good. I'm so proud of you. Guys, I made Rachel say hello before me today, and she did not like it.
I didn't like it, which is weird because I love attention.
You did so good. I said, if it sounds weird, we'll just laugh at it. Besides, you owe me for those 80 million hikes you've made me do over the course of our friendship, so.
You're right. It's only fair. We have to keep the force balanced.
Yes.
And make each other do uncomfortable things all the fucking time.
And you did so good. You even sang a little song.
And then I was like, wait, how does that go?
Welcome back to the Spill Your Guts podcast, everybody. It's Mandi here with Rachel Prairie. We have a special guest here today. We talked about this last week. This is episode 8, the Ocho. Right, Jesse?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, we made it.
Yo, Joe.
What's that from?
Dodgeball.
Yeah. Okay, Jesse. Coming in hot with the freaking movies. All right.
One of my faves.
It's really good, actually.
Ben Stiller.
Yeah, don't talk to Carla about Zoolander. It's a whole thing. That's her thing, but with me or with her and my husband. They geek out over Zoolander. It's an epic fight in our friendship. I do not think it's funny. I'm sorry, I don't think it's funny.
Wrong.
Everyone, I'm going to use this opportunity to introduce Carla Cordova to the podcast. So listen, no pressure. We had you on because we want you to spill your guts. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I invited you to come be on the podcast, and I think it doesn't really matter because I was going to make you be on this podcast anyway, one way or another. But specifically what we talked about last week, sort of like this concept of this self-love and this healing work we're doing, all the stuff we talk about on this podcast and what we actually just talk about, like between the three of us and our friendship, right? And we're just broadcasting it live for the people. It just really was a perfect segue to get you on here to share because you have been amazing.
Oh.
I have been watching you on your journey, really, just in the past year, this like healing that you've been on, and you've been doing so much work in this area that I wanted to force you to come on and share because it's really special and important. And I think it's like we're finding doing this podcast. This is a conversation that a lot of us are having, whether on a podcast or elsewhere. So I'm going to introduce you to everybody. This is Carla. She's been my best friend since kindergarten, you guys. We were in the same kindergarten class together.
Miss Caperl.
Miss Caperl.
Elm Crest Elementary.
Carla, I thought she was the coolest ever because she got to wear sports bras. And I was just like, you wear a bra? And she's like, you don't? And I was like, and listen, she brought me a Wonder Woman sports bra from her stash at home and gave it to me, and I wore it in secret, and I got in trouble because I was wearing it under my nightgown, and my mom was like, what is that? Where did that come from? I'm like 5. Just showing up to bedtime with a bra that she didn't purchase. Like, what the hell? That's how our friendship started. Never been the same. Fast forward to 7th grade. This bitch is like trying to teach me how to do eyeliner, you know, before we go to the skating rink. And I've got like a ponytail on the direct top of my head with like the 2 little tendrils. You guys can't see me right now, but you know the like strings of hair you would have on the sides in the 90s? I thought I was hella fly because Carla was like my stylist, dude.
She was our stylist in Vegas. That might be another podcast.
Oh, it's gonna be. Oh Lord! But listen, I've been in the shadow of this Beezy forever. She's been keeping me cool. She's been keeping me stylish, and now I'm making her come and spill her guts on this podcast.
Well, thank you,
Carla. Welcome. Hi. Thank you for being willing. Yes. I know I've used the word force and bully, but you are actually willing to come and talk about this. Mm-hmm. So spill your guts, girl. Tell us stuff. Do you believe that you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else?
I believe that you do. And I would say that just to cut to the chase, because when things don't go the way you had imagined, it's really hard to figure out, first of all, like, who the hell you are, right? You're like,
Absolutely.
wait a minute. I have literally put my entire everything into this person, making sure they're fed, happy, healthy. And then when that's just all gone, it's kind of like, well, shit.
What now?
What now? Like, I've been doing that for somebody else. I'm not healthy. I'm physically, mentally, spiritually
Right.
not healthy because, you know, you just kind of shift that whole energy and focus on this relationship.
Yeah. It's funny that you say spiritually because last week I did share that like I got married so young to like essentially the first person I ever dated because I was spiritually in church culture.
Yeah.
And that did have an effect on like the choices I was making and stuff. And so for me, it panned out because Mikey and I are both rebellious and we've sort of evolved out of that together. Would you say that you experienced that same kind of pressure, or tell me a little bit about that when you mean spiritually?
Yeah. I mean, like overall in life, not just this project, but like, yes, you know, my marriage to my son's dad was kind of like, you've got to do the right, you know, quote, right thing. And so, you know, that's kind of how you end up getting married when you're pregnant and, you know,
young.
18. And then like, even after that, I think I had this spiritual expectation for myself with my girl's dad. Okay, I'm never doing that again. I'm not getting divorced. Like, this is it. That it didn't matter what he said or did. I was just going to fucking make it.
You were going to make it work.
I was going to make it.
Wow.
And obviously, well, not obviously, people don't know that are listening, but that was a hard relationship and that did not work.
Is that what prompted you to go on this journey?
Well, I think that's what prompted me to press in, and it's what helped me discover this God in me and not this tyrannical kind of this God that is, you know, that we talk about, like this insecure, like I'm nobody without you. I'm, you know, like I'm less than, I'm this and that. So pressing in and kind of being at my bottom, like doing the work in a prayer room, like praying and yelling at God and just being so honest and being at my bottom, but like him, and I use, you know, like the masculine language because of my foundation, but like him just like keep going, like encouraging it and just like listening and taking it and like just like knowing me as a creation and like him
like you being
God
a part of the source
yes
of all. Yeah.
So actually though, that you would think that would have been it, but like God was already like changing that relationship. And then in 2019 in the midst of 2020 in the midst of COVID, I had probably the best relationship of my life. The best. A man that was kind, considerate, fun, just very easy, like the best. Like things went so fast because it was just click, click, click. You know, like we waited about 6 months and then we introduced each other to the kids and that was easy.
Big deal.
Yeah. And then a month later, we're like, well, let's kind of smash the kids together. Let's see how that goes. Easy. Kids got along great. They like, you know, it just, everything was so easy. And then that like scared him, right? He was married for 16 years and I was his first relationship outside of that. It scared him. And I understand it now. I understood it at the time, but obviously like I went from this like perfect, in my eyes, this like perfect, everything that like all of the boxes, right? You guys talk about that on the podcast as your number one fan. I know that. Thank you. Thanks. Hashtag reluctant pilgrim.
She gets a custom shirt.
Like I know all the things. No, so I got it and it was hard. And I thought in that heartbreak, like true heartbreak, not just like, you know, like in the previous relationship, I was so lonely, but I was in a relationship. This was like the first real heartbreak, actually. I can say that I think a year and a half later.
Wow.
And so that's when it was like, okay, what am I missing?
Do you think that, I mean, obviously the ending of that relationship was a catalyst, but also like, do you think it was also like a spiritual crisis too?
Yeah. I mean, I
that like kind of led you to self-love.
Yes. And I can say that with assurance because, you know, it's like, what do you do when you're in a crisis? Like you kind of you revert, you're like in your caveman brain, right? You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you just like, you go to what you know. And so for me, that was the Bible. That was this, you know, like I already had a better relationship. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to church, but it was, I didn't know what else to do. And I opened the Bible. And that's kind of, that really is like how this started, right? Because
your project.
My project. Yeah. Because I thought, okay, I've got to get back to basics. And I didn't even know what else to do. Like on the app, the Bible app, I typed in like marriage and I typed in like divorce. And I thought, what am I not doing right here?
Do you think you were having like some shame?
I mean, the shame came from not knowing my value, not knowing my worth, not loving myself, because I thought, how could this person just throw me away? How can, like, it was great. And I know that it was hard for him, but it was like, oh, he would just rather not. He would just rather not. And feeling shame, like, oh, there must be, because I wasn't sure that I am deserving of my dream, of my mind, heart, spirit, right?
So that's like what prompted you
Absolutely.
to go seek. Now, you guys have to know, Rachel has not heard.
You haven't heard the
this
story,
yet,
Rachel.
So
No,
she's just
and
like,
listen, I'm getting emotional because I am not surprised like how the three of us came together when we did.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we were living very similar experiences. I mean, like to a T, honestly, like how your story and what you were feeling like resonates. I even was thinking, I don't know why, I was thinking about something else earlier today. I think maybe like anticipating what we might talk about. And I was like, you know what I've said to myself several times when I'm in a bad relationship, friendship, like I know it, but like something in my brain is like, yeah, but you're built for this. Like you can handle it.
Yeah.
You can hang on. Like they're the weaker person, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
You can carry the team. Like that's what you're
Wow.
supposed to do, or like that's
Whoa.
your job.
Yeah. Well, no, I think, you know what, it's funny because I've had time to reflect on that relationship. And I wouldn't say that I like prided myself on, but one of the things that I like in the beginning was like, I thought, well, this was meant for us to be, because he had so many things come up that paralleled like my relationship as far as like the way that person treated him. And so then he was going through these firsts, right? Like the first time, like having to be around the other person in the ex's life as the other person in their relationship, you know, like all of these things. And it was just like, I could give him advice and just say, well, this is how I did it. And he would be like, yes, I did that. And thank you. And it was just like, I thought,
like you kind of coached him through that time. Do you feel like?
well, not even that, but just, I think I was also somebody that I was like, I understand.
Yeah.
And I know that sucks. And like one of the things was like, hey, like you have to go do this thing. And I know that person's going to be there and it's going to sting. It's going to sting the first time. Then you're going to go the second time. It's still going to sting. And then you're going to go the third time. It stings, but it's like not the same. And then you go, and then one time, like eventually you're just like,
oh, this doesn't sting anymore.
yeah, it doesn't matter, because it's not about them, and because you don't want your ex back.
Right.
And you're certainly like, yeah, you guys deserve each other every time.
Yeah.
Right. But
Well,
every time.
I will not comment.
Thank you. But, you know, so it wasn't like I was like coaching, this is what you have to do. It was just more of that, like that intimacy of I 100% like know how you feel,
Understanding,
because
yeah.
I literally went through that. This is how I did it. And this is how I felt, and
Wow.
this could happen. And he was like very appreciative. And it was like, I think that also just added to the, oh, Carla, you're great. You know, like, oh, this is the, you know, and, you know, because you can always ask your friends, but if they've never been in that situation, it's kind of like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
You should. And
It's like not the same.
yeah. Or it's like, oh, fuck that guy, you know?
Who acts like that? Not me.
Yeah. So
Also, fuck that guy.
also, So I'm sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we are registered as explicit.
This is explicit.
Yes.
Okay, because I've
Free
heard
flow.
of couples, but
We're trying to get sponsored still by
Abercrombie, who is not currently listening.
I'm gonna make it happen.
Hey, those nerds ropes, by the way, I tried them. I'm a believer.
Thank you.
But not superior to Sweet Tart ropes.
I beg to differ.
Okay, well, that'll be another podcast.
Okay.
Because I feel very passionately otherwise.
So okay, yeah. So I wasn't coaching, but when that ended, and I still, because of like what he was going through, I think, Rachel, what you were saying about like, oh, I can take this on and I can do it, I'm strong. I think it did turn into that for me. He would have like these hard things and not necessarily pull back. He was very good at communication, but I could tell when he transferred money into his ex's account for child support and alimony. Like I could just tell, it's like one of those things you're like, oh, alimony. Okay.
Ooh.
It's like
that day.
like, oh, like 5,500 deep a month, bro.
whoa.
Sorry.
Whoops.
This person probably also does not follow me, so it's okay.
This person in Abercrombie.
In Abercrombie. So when that ended, it was like, oh, wait a minute. Like I've been giving you everything, right? Like I've like hung in there, and I've like, even, I think I started putting some of the things that I wanted to say, like just aside, because I knew he was like going through some hard things. And then it just kind of got to I wouldn't even.
Oh, I have a hard question for you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to like interject as your lifelong best friend who knows this shit. Do you think because in that time and space, you were like, this is it?
Yes.
And I'm making this fit and work.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a part of you wasn't showing up as your authentic self because you were trying to preserve this special thing that felt that you were feeling was happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like talking to you about it even in the past, it was kind of like this, like I was mostly authentic, I think. I would like to say, because
You're always authentic, baby.
well, like, okay, now I finally have this thing that I've always wanted, and it's like great, and all the things like, oh, but if he knows too much or he like sees too much,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
then he's just definitely like not gonna. So I think there's probably a part of that, because especially in that moment, I didn't have that self-confidence.
Well, like how long is too long? Like you got to put your best foot forward, right? Whenever you meet somebody, like first impressions, right? And this is a question for everyone. Like at what point is putting your best foot forward and striving for that like masking and not being like letting the person that you're building a relationship with see like all the parts of you?
Yeah. Well, like this last person that like first date, I was like, okay, listen.
Yeah, she's got a different vibe.
I'm like, look, like if like this is like what are your non-negotiables? Here's mine. Like I don't know. I think I'm just in such a place where it's like, this is so terrible.
So like that loss, really, and the faith crisis, like all at once. It's all a swirl, right? We've talked about this so many times in different ways. Like it's like, it can't just be weight loss to go to my cousin's wedding, right?
Right.
It's like we all know. I use that as an analogy all the time because everybody understands like the difference in energy. Like when you're just trying to lose 20 pounds because you got to go somewhere and you don't want to feel like a dumbass in front of people, you're going to put in different energy and effort, and kind of knowing that it's not going to it's just like a Band-Aid, right? You're just going to do what you can.
By any means necessary.
Yeah, well, not any means. You're making me panic over here. I'm not trying to hike.
Oh,
Okay?
Jesus.
But it's like the same thing, right? Like to actually, there's a difference between like wellness and like fitness and then weight loss.
Yeah.
Those are not the same things. So if we sort of apply that same logic to relationships and self-love, which is all connected, like that's what this whole Spill Your Guts podcast is about, because everything is connected to everything, and this is why we might be mentally ill. But that's for another episode. Jesse's like, good God, let me out of here. But if you apply that
Mister, get me out of here.
Am I taking crazy pills?
Mugatu.
I'm just not sure what sound effects I can use with certain comments.
Maurice. But if you kind of apply the same logic to relationships, it's like, yes, you can put your best foot forward and try to present like in all the ways put your best foot forward and your best self, but really truly what is deep down in there is the real you.
Yeah.
And unless you like accept that within, nobody else can.
Yeah.
Outside of yourself. And so do you feel like that's like the place that you've been working from now?
The answer is yes. I think going through that breakup in particular, and then like really pressing in and like doing this project, doing all that stuff, really showed me actually that there were so many pieces, and it like you said, it's all a circle. It's all the same topic, because it was like, oh, it wasn't just because of this relationship that you now feel lost and don't know who you are. It's like, remember like when you were in middle school and you didn't think anybody would ever think you're beautiful. Oh, remember when you
didn't get a candygram either?
No, I got several. No, just kidding.
Bitch,
No.
I know you did.
No, but right. No. And then going even deeper. Like,
No, you carry it with
being
you.
like, oh,
yes.
right, I'm in Miss Voskiel's class looking at my leg thinking I'm huge.
Oh.
You know, it's like it really did like unpack all of these things that like you just don't like. I feel like I never really even thought about until I was like so fucking wounded.
Ooh.
And then it was like, oh, you got to scoop that wound because it's just festering.
Also, she's a doctor, everyone. So
PA.
The medical imagery, we're just gonna really.
It's actually
emphasis.
It's my favorite thing to like reference, because like a wound like festers, right? And it like smells, and it's like if you don't clean that shit out, it just keeps going. But you have to clean it to the raw tissue, and you got to scrub it, and that shit fucking hurts.
Oh, that's so good.
Because you have to get it to that raw, most healthy place, and if you don't, you're dead, Jack. you know what I mean?
Also has surprised
Thanks.
me because I was thinking about like the kind of more toxic bad relationships
Yeah.
I've had versus this last one I had was similar. Carla, like really thought I was going to be with this person forever, and like very deep love, and felt understood and seen in all the like gushy, amazing things. And I learned more coming out of that place of love that finally like propelled me into the real work versus like what I think like coming out of like a bad toxic one like you would imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was the actual heartbreak, like coming out of love to find it.
Yes.
And I thought that just surprised me. Because you would assume like the one prior that was like everything horrible that could happen in a relationship was happening. Didn't really, just like doodly do on with life. Maybe because I was kind of stuck in anger, not in love.
Yeah.
But it was like, it surprised me. Like that's what it took, was actually like real heartbreak.
The gift of the wound.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I remember saying, I just wish Steve was an asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, hashtag Steve, sorry. I love you. I fucking love you, Steve.
The names have been changed.
Yes. To protect the innocent. He lives on. No, just kidding. No, yes. I remembered like actually saying that. Like it would have been easier if he was a dick.
Yeah.
Because I'm like sitting thinking about the relationship, and I'm like, well, that is still exactly what I want. You know, yeah. So
tell us how that led you into this project. Like, tell us about it, especially because Rachel doesn't know the deets of this. So like, she's literally like, yeah. So
okay.
So tell us about that project.
So you guys are gonna love this. So I was lost. I didn't know what to do. So I literally was like, all right, God, what am I missing? Like, am I doing something wrong? Did you?
You looked at it as initially you looked at it as a insufficiency on your part.
Yeah, I thought, okay, so I just had this thing that was like everything, like, and really, like, I was constantly asking God, like, why would you give me that just to take it away?
Yes.
Why would you give me a taste of like all of these desires that I believe have been put in my heart? This dream, this desire for this like love, romantic love, companionship, all the things, right? Just to like have it just like gone, like literally gone, like one day, like done. And so I didn't know what else to do. I like reverted to the Bible. I don't want to say reverted because I don't want to say it that way, but what do I do? Okay, I'm going to get the Bible, turned on the app, got my physical Bible out, did all that stuff. And so what I ended up finding actually was that, I was like, okay, well, I'm divorced and this and that. Like, is it in the remarriage? And so as I was looking up Bible verses, you find that divorce is not favorable, right? In the Holy Bible. Jesus.
Really?
And
You don't say.
and so I think the first one that I read, it was Matthew 19. It's 8 and 9. And so basically the gist of it is that the Jewish leaders were like, well, they were trying to stumble Jesus up. And they were like, so like Moses said that you could divorce your wife, but like, do you believe that? And blah, blah, blah. And so Jesus basically was like, no, I don't think divorce is good. But circling back to, so basically like the end of the story, if you read it, he says, but for those who can't accept it, like it's okay. But I didn't really emphasize that part. I was like, okay, it's not good. Okay, I get it. So then the next verse that I got was Luke 16:18. It says, whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery. So if you're divorced, you're an adulterer. This next part is what made me lose my mind. It says, and whoever marries her, not him, whoever marries her, so me, I'm a divorced woman, basically also commits adultery. So God sees me as this adulteress. I can have the best, perfect, clean, God-fearing, never done a bad thing in his life. But if he marries somebody like me, he's beneath, he's like the scum.
He's
of
an
the earth.
adulterer.
He's an adulterer. He's under your feet. He's not worthy. And I thought, okay, well, why would I want to do that to somebody?
Oh, wow.
Why would I want to do that to somebody like who's perfect? Like, I don't want to be that person. If that is how God sees me, then what is this about? So that's kind of how this like train started.
I'm like, spiritual crisis, let's go.
Do you have a sound effect for like train?
I wish.
Ay, ay, ay.
We need a train whistle.
Come on, ride a train and ride it. Come on, ride it. It's the choo choo. Okay. All right. So 69 boys. Thank you.
Shut up. Hey, we're aging ourselves.
Oh, Lord.
She's mixing her podcast appearances.
I know, sorry. That's right, yeah. Okay, so we are now in full avert crisis.
Wait. I want to skip over this. I need to set a tone. When you read that and you received that way, when you went to that source of comfort that you had experienced it as before.
Yeah.
And then were you mad?
I was mad. I was extremely sad. Because I did take it. I said, you know what? I know people who take verses in the Bible and twist it to make it fit for themselves. Westboro Baptist Church.
Hey.
Who also is not listening.
They're not listening for sure.
Yes. and listen, I think I thought, okay, so I came to the source expecting God to work in me. God in me was going to do a work, and I got it, and I took that. And so I was sad. I was ashamed that I was a divorced woman, right? Like single mom.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because it makes a difference. Because in the last episode, we talked about how the struggle with self-love, in my opinion, is that way deep down in our bones and our guts, the thing we don't say out loud is that we actually do think that we are special. Like we actually do believe that we are set apart for something, for a purpose, for something, someone special, and we are afraid of that. But that's way deep down.
Yeah, sure.
That's way deep. And I shared the Marianne Williamson quote about how it's not our darkness that we're afraid of; it's our like light, actually, that we're afraid of.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like I'm wondering if when you got mad, was it because deep down you know that you're not that you know that, and that like God, quote unquote, did not create you to feel like that.
I wasn't there yet.
Okay.
I was mad, I think, because I like had this information and I thought, well, why would you put this desire in my heart so fucking strong? Like, why is this the only thing I can think about?
It's like, here, have this desire, but suffer without having it.
Yeah, but now you can't because you blew it.
Yeah.
Like you're a divorced woman and it's just not good. So I think that's why I was originally mad. Like,
so you embarked on a journey.
I went on a journey. This is how it started. Okay. I was at work.
Buckle up, bitch.
I was crying, like kind of on and off. It really did affect me. I was like, I kept like, am I really just like a terrible person? Like, am I really just like, what the fuck? Like, why? I'm sorry. I will try to curb that. And so I was talking to my coworker. We shared an office that day, of course, and he's like a big Catholic guy. And so I was raised Catholic. And so like every now and then we kind of throw jokes and stuff. He's not like pushy or anything. And I just turned my chair and I said, Ken, the Bible says this, like, what do you believe? And so he was like, well, Carla, like you can't really believe that God wants you to like not be happy. And I was like, well, Ken, you're Catholic.
Ken.
It's in the Bible.
Whoops. Fuck around and find out, Ken.
And then, I mean,
There's confession.
And listen, I mean, I feel like he said that. And I think, and obviously most people say that, right? Like we already know probably how this ends because it's like, of course, God in you, God creation has not created you to necessarily suffer, right? So, but
most people believe
most
that.
people, right? And so I guess I also was just like, oh, it's just because you love me that you would say that,
right?
And so he said, well, why don't you go talk to Father Chuck? He's like the head of the diocese in our like region. And I was like, oh, I will. I have a few things to say to Father Chuck. And so it was like, I as soon as like that happened and he gave me his contact info and I called and I left a message, something in me started to like a little trickle, if you will. I was like, okay. And I really feel like God in me was like, okay, let's go. Because I kind of was like, well, is it going to be weird? Is it just going to piss me off? Like, and it was like, no, this is it. Let's go. And I was like, okay. And then from there, it was like, oh, well, I shouldn't just talk to a Catholic guy, right?
How many faith leaders did you end up interviewing?
So I only got to interview 4. I called 7. The Hindu leader did not get back to me. The Mormon, I could not find not a one. And listen, it was important that I talk to the leaders, not people of the faith, because it had to come from them. Mm-hmm. Because like even now as I'm like writing
like
up
people teaching doctrine,
people teaching their congregation about these things. I
can find you some Mormons.
Right. Yeah. If it's a leader, that's who it has to be. Right. Because like anybody, you could say, oh, I'm a Christian. And then I'm like, well, what's your opinion? Nah. I like Mandi said, I want it to be like, what are you teaching your congregation? What are you teaching the people who if we're going by statistics, 50% of your congregation is divorced and probably remarried.
Mm-hmm. Which makes everyone an adulterer based on the Bible verse you shared.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Oh. Okay. Well, how do you want me to, tell you about Father Chuck first? You want me to go down the list? How do you want that? How do you want the layout?
Well, I mean, tell us about Father Chuck.
First of all,
this is your episode. Listen, we are just here.
Father Chuck was amazing.
As a listener, I'm very interested in what Father Chuck had to say about this.
He's awesome. So I walk in. It's the church downtown, the St. Thomas Church downtown. Mm-hmm. And I walk in. I obviously I get there early. Like I try to be like very respectful of their time and that. And so I was looking around and I was looking at this file cabinet and there was a like small cork bulletin board. And there was I have the picture of it. I'll have to like send it to you guys so you guys can see. I took a picture of it because I was like, no fucking way. And it was like come talk to us like about your divorce and like how you can get through it and like the support group for people that were divorced. And I was like, okay, already this is going to be good. Because, you know, like it wasn't just like, oh, like we don't want to talk about it. We're sweeping it under the rug.
What did you say? Were you like, hi, I'm Carla. I'm doing an investigative journalism.
Yes.
Like, yo, Father Chuck, I got some beef. Like, how did you present it? Lucy Lou, tell us.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that. I asked if I could record him. And like most of the leaders, the only leader that I did not get to record was the Imam from the Muslim mosque, which I think I didn't ask. I was just respectful of his decision. But like you could always kind of see the questioning in the face. Like, what is she going to ask me? Like, is she going to try to trip me up? And so
they were like ready for battle.
Yeah. So I always started it with my story. You know, like my name is Carla. I am a divorced woman who's looking for this answers. As I was reading the Bible, you know, this is kind of what it said.
Is this not blowing your mind, Rachel? No, I'm sorry. I'm just like,
this doesn't surprise me about Carla at all.
I'm like, this is my friend.
My solution was like, go eat some mushrooms and shoot balls until an alien came and told me it would be okay.
Psilocybin is not bad for that either.
You heard it here first.
Oh Lord. So just that way they because you could see already, like I'm like voice recording them. I'm taking notes. I have questions. It was like
hard hitting journalism.
Like this is why I'm doing this. You know, like really I'm just trying to like figure out why God would give me like this strong desire of my heart just to tell me that I'm an adulteress and I'm not worthy of most things.
Balls.
Honestly.
So what did Father Chuck say?
So Father Chuck was really great. And he was asking me about my marriage because I wasn't married to my girl's dad.
Well, and technically, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but technically the Catholic specific perspective, I think would be the most, what's the word? Like strict?
Sure. Yes.
Astringent. I don't want to say aggressive, but maybe like the most very black and white.
Yes.
So that's interesting. Okay.
So really what it kind of boiled down to is he asked me about my marriage. And he said, did you get married kind of like of your own volition? Like, and I said, well, I was 18. I didn't get a proposal. Like he kind of said, well, my mom said that we should do this and, you know, it's probably what's best for us. And like, you know, he loved me, all that stuff. Like, I don't doubt that. But it was kind of like getting pressure even from his parents to like do the right thing. Right. And so I just kind of laid it out that way. And he said, well, technically, if you didn't do it with the purest intentions, you want to do it. But he's like, we don't even really recognize that. Plus I was not married in the church. So he said, you know, there is an annulment process, not just legally, but in the church as well. And so he said, you know, like if you're worried about it, because I was raised Catholic and did my communion and kind of did the whole thing. Mm-hmm. He said, you know, you can always go through that process and there's a committee. I mean, it is a process. It's a whole packet that you fill out and it's a committee and it's really cool because it's a committee formed for the divorce and one that's like I wouldn't say argues against it, but like tries to find where they might be able to salvage the marriage.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And so, you know, and obviously if that person, the other person that you're divorced from also has to do the same process. And it's not like they're served, but they like have a certain amount of time. And then if they don't, your paperwork still goes in front of the committee. But most likely they're like, well, obviously this person feels this way. And so, and then at that point, as long as you have a Catholic annulment, you can get remarried in the Catholic Church.
Wow.
So, you know, it's very interesting because my questions were specifically about marriage, divorce, and remarriage. And the first question is, how does your religion, like to what esteem does your religion hold marriage? And most of them were like obviously like in high esteem. The highest I would say was like the Muslim faith.
Can you share which specific faiths? Like all of them?
That I interviewed?
That you interviewed, yeah.
Yes, I interviewed. So Father Chuck, so Catholic, the Imam, the Muslim leader, Reverend Matthew, who is just right here at the Reno Buddhist Center, and then Rabbi Beth, which you met, so in the Jewish faith. So
she was Jewish Orthodox, right?
Not
Orthodox.
Yeah, Orthodox is the very strict traditional.
And then you didn't need to interview anyone in like the evangelical culture because that's like where you're coming from.
Well, yeah, and I thought so that was another one that I had lined up that like just never connected, and I thought that, and it couldn't be from the church that I had kind of grown up in as a Christian because they were praying for me this whole time to like meet somebody and be happy and all the things. So I wanted somebody who didn't know me that would just tell me based off of their teachings and their, like, I wanted to know, oh, well, Carla, you're a great person.
Yeah.
And you deserve
like
to be
unbiased.
Yes.
So I mean, like, I know this story and I'm like riveted.
I know. I'm really curious about the word, especially I was semi-raised Lutheran, but then ended up in a Catholic middle school, high school, and college. But my college was actually super liberal as well. Like, and we had nuns that lived at my high school in a convent and in college, and they were super progressive.
Yeah.
So I think I have a little bit like different Catholic experience than most people. I actually felt somewhat empowered.
Yeah.
But I'm really like the word that you used, the intention behind the marriage or relationship, like is sticking in my brain for some reason, because it's kind of going back to this, like how we think, act, speak about ourselves and like what we're manifesting into the world. But like the intention behind marriages, like now I'm like even thinking about all my friends and like family and people that I know are married, and I'm like, man, and are unfortunately a lot of them are unhappy, and I'm like, I wonder if they could like define the intention of like why they got married or how they got together. Like, where did it come from? Was it kind of like this is a situation that we're in, and so the intention is like this is just what you do.
It's been 3 years. We might as well do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is the intention like we are in love and like we're best friends and like we want to grow together? I don't know. That word is like, it just surprised me.
When she said, what esteem do you hold marriage? And to ask that of faith leaders who are the original influencers, right, is really interesting because it holds a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You know, so what were your biggest takeaways? Like maybe your 3 biggest takeaways.
My biggest takeaways, just to like wrap up the whole thing, I think is like,
or maybe like the most surprising, like first off, what surprised you the most? And then your biggest takeaway.
Obviously, I think that the Muslim interview was, I would say, probably my favorite.
Really?
Yes, because so the questions I ask are like, that's the first question. The next one is like, is there any counseling? Like do you
like a pre-marriage?
Yeah, do you have to do pre-marriage
Do you
counseling?
set your people up for success somehow?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything like that they have to do after marriage? Like what's a traditional ceremony look like? What's, it's like if somebody wants to get divorced, how do they go about that? Are they then excommunicated? Is there like penance to come back in to the church, or like are there like if you're not familiar with penance, like are there steps, or is there like a ritual that somebody has to perform?
I'm like, what's the loophole?
Right. And then like obviously at that point, if somebody in your congregation is divorced, would you recognize a new marriage, or like tell me, like explain more about that and things like that. So I asked the same questions to everyone. But my favorite thing about the Muslim marriage, like how they hold their marriage at just such high value, is that even saying the word divorce, because like there are people that are like, I just want a divorce, and it's just like thrown around and it's just so crushing, and eventually like doesn't even mean anything because that person's always saying that they just hate you and they want a divorce, right?
Yeah.
But in the religion, even saying it is like doing it. And if I am going to probably get this wrong, but I want to say if that person says it 3 times, the spouse has every right to first they go to the family and they try to get a counseling thing. If it's not reconcilable, then they will include the Imam, and he or she, so because I was asking about myself, so the wife has 3 months to make her decision, and essentially that's to make sure she's not pregnant, right?
Whoa.
So then if after 3 months she's still like, nope, that's it, and she is free to marry again. Now she goes through the same like ritual, like where the family, like the person she wants to marry, they kind of like do this
like a courting thing with the family. Okay.
Yeah, like no alone courting still. Doesn't matter the age, kind of this group courting, and then just like so that everybody else can also see that this
like
is going to be
still
a union.
there's still like rules, but she's not seen
free.
as like damaged goods.
Nope, she's free. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'd kind of like to just meet the family up front too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, like nah.
Yeah, what
like
kind of
that's
dowry
only
you
an
bringing, bud? You got a donkey, or what are you bringing to the table?
Yeah.
I'm in love, and now I met the family like 6 months later, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I got to be with all you guys too.
Well, but it's so funny because like even Reverend Matthew at the Buddhist Center, he's like, we don't really look at divorce that way. We look at it like, and I remember like he did his fingers like this. He's like, people are meant to like come in and out of your lives, and sometimes like you're here, and then sometimes like you like separate, right? And it's just like in that time you're not meant to be in the life, and then sometimes you come back, and sometimes it's just parallel, and and that person is meant to be there. And I like just like remember his like his hand gestures and like the mannerism and the way he explained it to somebody like me who's not a part of that, and that kind of made me go, oh, it gave me like a little bit of a breath, like of, okay, so this just wasn't meant for this time. Mm-hmm. And not that I like bought into it right away. Oh, thank you, you gave me the answer I needed, but it kind of softened the blow of it being like this thing that I failed at.
Instead of it being a failure, it was like a season.
Yes.
And it came to completion.
Yes. Yep.
Ooh, reframe magic again.
Yes.
So what do you think? See, I just feel like she needs to like call Vice immediately and create a documentary for this and like take this to the streets.
We
but
need to get a hold of those other leaders.
I guess the Spill Your Guts podcast will do.
Well, I am writing it up now.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
And it's interesting to like start like the intro as like I write this as somebody who has had a chance to sit and do the work, and it's really. So
how has like now? Of course, I was like with you, and we live life together pretty much regularly. So
parallel.
I'm like watching you embark on this journey, and like literally blown away as you're doing it, because I'm just like the balls on this chick. But
honestly,
but not because of like going and like having the nerve to talk to these people, but more like the balls to just go after truth and ultimately honoring yourself by like not just like sort of accepting something that felt uncomfortable or didn't feel right. Like you embarked on the like finding the truth for you. How did that shape how you feel about relationships now? Yeah. And how did that shape where you are at currently, like spiritually? Did it affect you? Did you evolve? Did you like, because now you're hanging out with me and I got crystals in my bra and I'm doing Reiki and shit.
Locked and loaded.
I mean, we've been hanging out anyways, but do you know what I mean? Like how now that you have had some time to sit on it, like how do you feel about your findings? How do you feel that has, if we're talking about self-love and how that then carries out into relationships like romantic ones or even just friendships and family beyond, how has that affected you? Like, did it ease that anger that you felt when you read that Bible verse the first time?
Yes, because so like circling back, like, I was able to then like read that Bible verse. I know it sounds like, oh, I read it and I put like now my own emphasis in it. It literally is like Jesus like says, rather than be tripped up, like God's like, or, like in this verse, Jesus was like, well, don't you know the scripture? And then he just recites it. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like saying factually. He was like, he literally is a G. And was like, don't you know it? All right, well, let me recite it for you.
Yes.
Recites it, and it's like, and not everybody can accept this. And, like for those who can't, basically just do your best. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just crazy. So what it's done for me is like, I didn't need to talk to all those people to know that God that resides in me, the Spirit, that talks to me and like leads me and gets me through my day. I know now that I didn't need to do that to know that like I am here to enjoy the fruits. right?
And valuable and worthy.
And valuable and worthy and deserving.
Yeah. Oh,
and more than enough. You know, when people say I am enough, that doesn't hit as hard as I am more than enough. Because I feel like doing just enough, you know, like I work my 20 hours and it just gives me my insurance and I go home. Like I'm working my 80 hours. I'm working off the clock. I'm more.
So do you feel like starting a journey out of a place of feeling sort of like let down, not just like by the relationship, but then by like your faith, right? That you had relied on. Like you got kind of like a slap in the face and like the time you needed it least.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And coming from this place of like really not feeling worthy and not feeling deserving and really struggling with that and grieving that, did that all bring you to a place of truly starting to understand self-love now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, I mean, in that, you know, all of that was stronger. I was sitting with myself so much and just like going over the things. And, you know, we recently like talk about identity, which I'm still looking. Identity is different than what we're talking about, but like this self, not selfishness, but this selfness, like all of it, like the self-love and just like everything that's encompassed and like self. As I was doing that, like, I just really feel like God was encouraging me like all the time. Like, yeah, just keep asking the questions. It doesn't matter how off the wall it is. It doesn't matter that I'm cussing at him. It doesn't matter. It was like, yes, keep going. And that just, that growth, the self-growth was like self-love, because it was like, oh, look at this whole new thing. And
the gift of the wound.
And just knowing, and now like in this last person that I tried to date, like it was like, because I knew what I deserved, because I love myself and I want X, Y, Z, not even as an expectation on somebody else, but for myself and for my life.
Yes.
It was like, no, something is not right here.
Well, and let me tell you, as your number one listener, bitch. A totally different energy. This last boy did not stand a chance, yo. I was like, see ya, nice meeting you. You're out of here.
And isn't it so? It's so interesting to me too that there's on this, whatever we call this like journey toward self-love, awakening, purpose,
human experience.
Yes, there's
meat sack, earth school,
dumpster fire.
There's no one way to get there.
Right.
Like Carla, even though I said, Carla, like we were a lot, like very similar paths, but like how we both have arrived to this powerful conclusion was totally different. Yeah. And I think that's why this space can be so hard to figure out, because like there's no, like, this is how you do it. You know, it's not like fitness where you're like, just, you know, eat a little more protein and move a little bit more. Like there's so many routes that you can take. Yeah.
Well, and honestly,
part of it is like finding what that is. It's a lot of work.
It's exhausting work.
I'm tired.
Bitch needs a nap. But it's like what we talk about all the time. I feel like we get so redundant sometimes, because it's like we can talk about fitness. We can talk about dating. We can talk about personal growth and goals. We can talk about friendships. We can all of the things end up back here.
Yeah.
It all ends up back here with like basically all inward. And then once you start to get that sorted, and you gain momentum, right? When you really start, and the self-love thing feels so uncomfortable. Like I had said before, it's because we're raised in this culture where it's like, that's conceited. You're full of yourself. That's what self-love means. And that is not it.
Right.
It is a radical acceptance of the good and the bad, right? The gift of the wound.
Yeah.
I heard both of you share, when you both shared your story, about how it took this like pain, this loss, this like grief to push you into this like next level. And though I did not experience that like with my relationship, I too have like had, it's been pain, death, of self over and over, like humiliation, like ego, death. It's the wound that is the gift.
Yeah. Well, and then, it's like Abraham Hicks says, like, the negative is good because that's contrast. You don't know that something is bad unless you know what good feels like, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know if something's bad unless you're like, oh, wait, this is bad because this is not feeling good.
How
right?
could you know?
How could I have known? Like,
Carla.
I know.
So here it is, girls. I'm going to ask you both this, and Jesse too, because you're still here.
Wow. I'm just taking notes for all the men out there.
All right, you don't have to answer if you don't want. But for the girls, for sure. Jesse,
men everywhere.
Yeah, dude. Jesse, you're killing it. What would you, if you could whisper into the ear of your brokenhearted self in 2020 or whenever that was?
Yeah, 21.
If you could just whisper a message to her, knowing what you know now, what would you say?
I mean, I don't want to sound obvious, but like, it's going to be okay, right? Like listen to that thing, press in. Like, you already know what you're doing. Like, I don't have to tell you anything. Like, you're going to get there. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, RDP? What would you tell that young little rascally Rachel?
Probably along the same lines. Let things end.
Ooh,
Let it go.
This all ends.
This all ends. I got that tattoo soon after, actually. Needed a quick reminder.
I love that.
Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your project with us. What are we calling it? Do you have a title?
I don't. I have all those audio files, so I might do like a YouTube thing in conjunction with the like write-up.
Yes.
I don't know yet. Like, a journey to self-love. Like, so, I don't know. I don't know. But
okay, well, I am so grateful that you were willing to come on and share.
Guys. Thank you both.
It worked out really, really perfectly, as it always does. As it always does. Thank you for coming on and spilling your guts. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions about this. So you guys, if you want to talk to Carla, we're going to be sharing her like crazy on our Instagram page. So go and follow her. She's terrible at social media. So if she doesn't know how to answer you, just DM me.
If I don't know how to answer, I
DM me. I'll help you out.
How do I take a picture?
But listen, I will let you know when her documentary drops on Vice.
Yeah.
And you can expect her on as a guest again some other day. But thank you so much. We love you. And we can't wait we'll see you guys next time. So you guys love yourself.